Hi everyone and welcome to Off the Record, the sports podcast of breaking news, hard opinions and a little bit of gibber. I'm Andrew Webster from The Australian and I'm joined by my co-pilot, Phil Rothfield from the Daily and Sunday Telegraphs and Code Sports. G'day, Buzz.
Hello, Webby. How you going,
Good.
mate? The week of your 50th, eh? How you going?
The half century.
You had a long lunch Monday, I hear, which I wasn't invited
God,
to.
you give up easy, don't
Well,
you?
Mate, what? I didn't get an invite.
Well,
Who'd you go with?
I
Legendary.
I just can't invite
Yeah.
you to every lunch I
Who
have.
paid? Who were you with? Roy Masters?
I was there with Roy and Jeff Carr and
Jeffrey Carr.
Jeff Carr, one of the greats.
Yes.
Do you know one of my favourite moments of online video? Remember when I used to work at the Telegraph?
Oh, don't. That's a war story.
When I worked at the Telegraph, we're jumping into this very early.
Yeah.
And New South Wales had lost a few. I think
We lost about
we lost
eight in a row.
a thousand series, and Jeff was the boss of the New South Wales Rugby League, and Buzz somehow convinced him to sit in a witness box in a courtroom, and Buzz wore the magistrate's wig and said, "Jeffrey Carr, you are charged with bringing rugby league in New South Wales into disrepute. How do you plead?"
I'm not sure disrepute was the judge.
And then Jeff Carr goes, "Yeah, no, not guilty." And Buzz slammed the gavel down. And then we went to lunch. Good times. Okay, coming up on the show today, Buzz lifts the lid on the real reason why Ezra Mam wasn't picked for the Broncos this weekend. We dive into the Roosters moving on Dominic Young. Let me spit that out.
Monday lunch.
That was a Monday lunch coming back. And also we got Buzz just broke a story in front of my eyes about Brandon Smith. And I talk about being sacked on my 25th birthday, Buzz.
Really?
Yeah.
Hope you don't get sacked on your 50th.
No, I
hope I don't remove you as my host.
No, now listen. Now you might have to do a bit of legwork. Listen, I want to get this out of the way now. Special offer for listeners of Off the Record. You can get an annual subscription to Australia's best sports website, Code Sports, for just $49, featuring Australia's best sports journalism. The Code Sports app is essential for every fan. Head to codesports.com.au/OTR.
It's a good website. Tell you what I use it for, stats. They've got the best rugby league stats. If you're writing a story, you can do comparisons and it's great.
Yeah, instead of just texting David Milton like I usually do.
Yes. Don't be harassed, Middo.
Oh, he's a good man, Middo. Do you know what I do when I've been known to do it maybe out on the drink, but like trying to get settling a bet. And I'll text him at 10:30 and 9 times out of the 10 he'll come back and respond. Wow. Good man. All right, let's get into the Champs and Chumps. Who is your champion, Champ?
Ricky Stewart and the Canberra Raiders. They're running second or third. I haven't looked at my premiership table, just behind the Bulldogs. And I just love the football that this green machine is playing. That try Weeks scored from the Nicholson pass, the chip and chase, heavy rain, muddy, slippery field, the regather was just the most beautiful rugby league.
He's a freak, Weeks. I've been a big fan ever since he came into NRL.
But you know what? In the day of structured rugby league with 5 not hit-ups, they swing it a little bit and a kick on the last, to watch this footy side be so adventurous, it's so good for rugby league. And that try is my long odds-on favourite at this stage for the great award, the Peter Frelingos Dally M Moment of the Year.
There you go.
It was so good.
Can't disagree. Okay, I'm going. You know who my champ is?
Who?
I'm going back to Oscar Piastri.
Are you? Again?
Yes, he won Monday morning's thrilling Miami GP, extending his victory streak to 3. And he's leading the World Championships to 16 points. You know what I love about him? He's got Aussie flags all over his helmet. He doesn't sell it as ad space. He's got Aussie flags all over his helmet. And I think that shows how patriotic he is.
What's he worth? Is he now...
I wouldn't know. He'd be a fair whack.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, wouldn't it, to do the marketing story on him?
I've never seen a broke Formula One driver, but I mean, it's such a good story. I know I accidentally said on this show that we haven't had a world champ since Mark Webber. That's not correct, but I mean, he's won 3. He's gone back to back to back.
It's crazy.
He must be going okay. All right, who's your chump?
My chump is I'm not going anywhere near rugby union. I'm not going to upset anyone today.
Oh, thank God.
I tell you what my chump is, the International Cricket Council for giving the television rights to the World Championship final between Australia and South Africa at Lord's to Amazon. Now, why our government, newly elected government, hasn't got an anti-siphoning procedure where this cricket game is on it. It should be on free-to-wear. If not, everyone's got access much easier to Fox Sports, Webby, and I know I work there, but I run my television through the Fox box. It's just easy to find. You know, with the Premier League soccer, it's hard to find on Optus.
On your apps.
Yeah.
Hey, that's going to be rugby league, Buzz.
Yeah,
That's where it's all going to go, according to the great Peter V'landys.
But don't you
Origin on Netflix. We'll be watching a finals match on Amazon.
But don't you think the Australian cricket team playing at Lord's should be on free-to-wear?
I would have thought this Test match would come under anti-siphoning. I do.
Now, apparently, it's done with countries because it's South Africa and South Africa aren't England and South Africa aren't India. This is how it slipped under the guard.
Right.
So, Webby, sign up to Amazon Prime if you want to watch the Australian cricket team.
I already am.
Are you? I always see them on the bill because I think my kids have log-ons, but I've never used it.
Don't you have your little apps on your TV?
I'm not all that technical with that. I've still got an aerial on my roof and a Foxtel dish, and I just run stuff through that.
There you go.
Yeah.
Come and join us in the 21st century anytime you want.
What do you think of my chump? Out of 10?
About a 7.
Oh, right. Okay. Well, do better.
Tell me how mine is. Mine's the. There you go. I nearly choked trying to say it. The NRL judiciary. That's ridiculous that Jacob Preston got suspended last night. I know he's got loading, and I know that we have to get rid of crushers, but I think Paul McGurr, the lawyer. We'll get to what he said afterwards in a second, but I thought the way that he argued the point that Tino Fasuamawale he's back into the tackle like a lot do. I don't think there was much that Jacob Preston could do. I thought that was very unfair for him to get suspended for that. Good on, and look, every time you go to the judiciary, you're $1 not to get a positive verdict. But I thought it was harsh.
It was a tackle that was worthy of a fine. An $1,800 fine, maybe, okay? But once he was charged and once the judiciary found that it was a crusher tackle, which I disagree with, they had no choice but to give him the 4-week holiday because you said the prize, I think it was his 3rd crusher tackle this year.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a style problem he's got there that he's going to have to fix, and they're just ruthless, the Bulldogs, the way they defend it. And that young fella is one of the cleanest, tough player. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, sure.
You use words better than I do, but there's just no rubbish in his game.
No, I know, but they've also, and I understand, like, he's got prize, but, the poor kid's no chance of making Origin now. I just think that's wrong. Paul McGurr said
About
lawyer,
diving.
He said Tino didn't dive. Probably a smart move from Paul not to call one of the biggest, toughest hombres in the game a diver. But it was a very weird sort of thing for him to go on about for a lawyer after judiciary. But he's right though.
Yeah, but again, how do you prove it, Webby? How do you absolutely prove that there was pressure on his neck, but it was so accidental? I don't know if he dived.
I don't think Tino dived at all.
No.
I mean, he's just bending out of the tackle, but I just thought it was strange that the lawyer would, go on a general rant about diving in the game after the hearing.
I'd like to see Paul McGurr on a football field and Blake comes and jumps on his neck and puts pressure on how he'd feel.
Yeah.
It's a big allegation to make.
Look,
there's definitely
but he was
diving.
made it clear he wasn't saying it about Tino.
Yeah.
Anyway. All right. We've got a bit of news to get through.
Yeah.
You heard it here first, unless, of course, it doesn't happen, but this has happened. Buzz, Ezra Mam, his 9-match ban for driving with drugs in his system and then crashing his car into oncoming traffic. It's ended this week. Michael Maguire, the Broncos coach, won't pick him for Friday night's game against South. Instead, he'll make his return to the game via the Queensland Cup. He was booed at Magic Round. I know some have tried to suggest this was the reason why he wasn't picked, but you've got the real reason. What is it?
Well, I reckon it's because it's women in league round, and that's the mail I'm getting. And I'll give you some background there. I made some phone calls yesterday because I needed to get an indication early on for a recorded podcast whether he would be in the side. And some very, very good sources at the Broncos informed us that he'd be on an extended bench. And that was about 11 o'clock yesterday. Then the team comes out and he's nowhere to be seen. And my understanding is that, there was some internal pressure around women in league that probably, wouldn't be the right look, and that he hadn't played footy for a long time anyway, and his timing and all this sort of thing. But when you consider a little 4-year-old girl suffered a fractured hip, Webby, in that car accident, his mum was her mum was in the car too. She was in the shock and badly shaken. And look, it's Mother's Day Sunday. It's women in league round. As you said, he had cocaine in his system. He was unlicensed. He veered to the wrong side of the road. He cleaned up the vehicle. And a lot of people, quite frankly, are not happy that he's back this week. And the way it was handled, Webby, by the NRL and the Broncos on Christmas Eve to put out the late statements when they knew you weren't around, I wasn't around, all the top journos were on holidays. It was their opportunity to put it out without facing the music.
I 100% agree with you. I thought the way the NRL handled it was appalling. I would have been more than happy for him to sit out the year. Yeah. I know that sounds heavy, but what happened was to make it just one extra week than what the Spencer Linu suspension from earlier in the year. You're right. So I was away overseas. I'd finished at the Herald and I was travelling through North America and Mexico. So I was just reading. I'm still a rugby league junkie, so I'm sitting there reading, all the news. And I've got to say, the thing that really, and I sent Andrew Abdo a message, and I said, mate, tell me whether I'm reading this wrong. But from where I'm sitting, there seems to be all this concern for Ezra's welfare. What about the little girl? What about the mother? Where's the condemnation for what Ezra's done? Yeah. I thought 9 matches just sent such a terrible message. And for the fact they're not going to pick him for this round because it's women in league round, I understand, again, the thinking of it. But to me, that just seems like a bit of a piss week move, given that they made a piss week decision last year.
The Queensland Police that
didn't help.
And the court system didn't help at all. He was fined $850 and suspended from driving for 6 months. He was driving suspended or unlicensed anyway.
That's right.
In fairness, he was fined $120,000 by the Broncos and the NRL, but Webby, he's on $750. So it's,
I know, but I think fines, that doesn't really say anything. That doesn't say anything to the person on the street, to the rugby league fan,
Not when you're on that salary.
No, and particularly given the seriousness of what happened. The NRL's line to me on it always is the fact that the court system only slugged in what they did. I think
that doesn't mean
it shouldn't matter. It shouldn't matter, should it?
No, the game should have taken a stance. And look, I probably could have worn 16 weeks, Webby, but it's just not right. And this is a special round for a lot of women who work in the game, from volunteers in canteens to coaches, and women are a lot more than volunteers. Now, you saw that NRLW game the Origin game, 2 million viewers, Webby.
Yeah, I know.
It's such a big, they'll sell out Newcastle. They'll sell, they won't sell out Arlen's, but they'll get a big crowd. I'm told that's the reason. They didn't want a disturbance around women in league.
That's very interesting.
And I think it's a smart move, whoever did make that decision, because we were told he would be part of that extended bench.
I wasn't at Magic Round. You were. What were you there when he was booed?
Yes, I was.
Did you hear it? I couldn't really.
Yeah, you could hear it. But that's what you get when you and I was surprised anyway they were going to put him on a bench. Like, he has to earn back that jersey.
He does. I find it a real shame with Ezra. I thought he's a great player. We really saw during that grand final sort of run that they made against Penrith a couple of years ago. He's I hope he can get his act together.
Well,
by the sounds of it, he has.
Well,
but
Webby,
the punishment again doesn't fit the crime.
He's 21 years of age, and what 21-year-old hasn't stuffed up? Some of them minor, some of them his was major, and he's got off soft here, big time. But look, he'll fix it, but he needs good people around him,
Yeah, for sure. Righto. News of the week. There's been a bit doing in rugby league land. So we'll start with the Roosters. Dom Young, the high-flying winger that they bought from Newcastle, has been given permission to negotiate with other clubs. But the newer news, and I'll just say this for the listeners, as we walked onto the set here at Off the Record at Mentored Studios, I saw Buzz in old school fashion ring through a breaking story on his mobile phone to the Telegraph sports desk about Brandon Smith being released early, or likely to be released early by the Roosters to join South Sydney from June 30.
Yeah.
Tell us about that one first, Buzz.
Well,
you old newsbreaker.
Yeah, well,
copy.
Brandon Smith.
Philip Rothfield here.
Yeah, hello, Full Point New Par. A couple of months ago,
just before we go any further, I did have to tidy it up as he went along. By the way,
please.
Yeah, good.
I'll put additional reporting Andrew Webster on the tail end of it. But look, 2 months ago, Brandon Smith signed with their arch rivals, South Sydney. Still in ACL recovery for another 5-6 weeks. And there was talk that the Roosters would not release him because why would they give away a good forward when, they needed him at the Roosters and he was only going to help South make the 8. However, the Roosters have been going gangbusters, haven't they? Blake Steeps filled in at lock forward and, they're very, very strong and they can use Brandon Smith's money now to upgrade some of these kids who are doing such a good job. I think Hugo Zavala is still on a development contract. So they're now in negotiations with South. I think it'll happen next 48 hours. That I think South will have to pay a couple of $100,000. He's on about 8 at East. And then they'll send him over to Redfern under Wayne Bennett.
I've got to say I'm stunned because the Roosters were adamant this wasn't going to happen.
Yeah, but things
changed, and it certainly has changed. It certainly changed since they signed him.
Yes,
since South signed him.
Yes.
When's he back from injury?
He's back in about 5 to 6 weeks. Right. Webby. Things do change.
The thing
a development year at the Roosters has become a top 8 year. They're playing really strong, and they're doing it, with these boys who have just, playing out of their skins, and they got Walker to come back. And they do not feel that Brandon Smith,
they need him.
No.
So, all right, this sort of dovetails, which is our new favourite word, dovetails into Dominic Young being given permission to talk to other clubs. Now, he signed a 4-year deal that only started last season, and they've tapped him already.
Yeah.
So it's easy to make the assumption that the Roosters' recruitment is all over the place, and I suppose you look at Terrell May, that's the one that people talk about the most. But you're right, for a redevelopment year, and they're looking at a top 8 finish if they keep playing the way they are. I'm not saying they're going to win the comp, but the way they're playing, they're a top 8 team, particularly with the way Teddy's playing. What do you think? What do you think of the Dom Young situation?
Oh, well, I think, again, it's smart by the Roosters. If you have a player there who can't make the first grade side because they're so strong in their back 5 now, And I'm talking, I'll try and pronounce it again, Nawanga. It's wrong.
Nawanga Natawase.
Yeah, whatever. You got him, you got Billy Smith, you've got Toya, who's a sensational player, you got Tedesco. Mate,
Tupou's one of the best wingers in the comp still.
Tupou's going enormous.
Mm.
There's not a spot in the side for him. Again, the Chooks, and if Cherry Evans is coming, you shouldn't pay big money to blokes run around New South Wales Cup.
I get it.
And Newcastle want him back.
Works.
So I don't have a problem with their recruitment. I will always question why they let Terrell May go, and that will, there's just totally wrong, in my view, to that decision because he's going to play Origin. But with these other guys, I think it's actually good roster management. That's what the game is now, Webby. The game is a top 30 at the start of the season is never a top 30 come June 30.
It's funny, in rugby league, we look at these sort of like recruitment decisions and chopping and changing and think, that's the sign of a club that's panic buying. But if you look at other sports and other codes around the world, this happens all the time. These type of trades, or these type of recruitment decisions. So I don't really have much. Yeah, I'm the same with you with May. I still can't wrap my head around that one, particularly with the way that he's playing at the Tigers. But I suppose Toya coming on like he has, like he's just gone enormous. Particularly
what about Billy Smith, mate?
Oh, well, that's you know what?
What about the size of him and the skill of him?
The skill and just the athleticism of a guy that big. He should be a back rower. He's incredible. Yeah. But I said this on SEN last week. The thing with Billy Smith, I just think, imagine if he didn't have those injuries to start his career. Imagine where he'd be now.
Yeah, no, super duper player, and is entitled to more money.
He certainly is.
If he can survive this year injury free.
We all need more money, Buzz, don't we?
We do, mate.
Okay, let's move on to, it must be Origin time because we're already thinking about sacking the New South Wales captain, Jake Trbojevic. Thoughts?
Well, what are your thoughts? Look, Laurie Daly's the nicest man I think I've ever met in rugby league, and Jake Turbo's in a photo developed print with him. And that's where it's so hard. It's really, really difficult. Jake captained a winning Origin series last year, but he only played 20 minutes in each game. And he's up against Payne Haas, Barnett. What a player Barnett is at the Warriors. He's carrying that forward pack without Fisher Harris. Yo's got to play lock. He's the Australian captain. He's the Golden Boot winner. Then you got Spencer Lanu and Terrell May and players like that for the bench, maybe Big Stefano. Jake would need to play out of his skin the next couple of weeks. I spoke to Laurie Daly about it yesterday, and he wasn't giving too much away. But he wants to see something, obviously, more from him in these last two games before they pick the side.
I'm torn. I'd give him. I'm glad that he's at least hasn't got a line through his name, but he was so important for the culture of that team last year, and we all forget how, like, New South Wales are outsiders really to beat Queensland, and his importance was more than just, he's like people used to rattle off his stats from the Origins last year, and so, but like it's more than that. That's what Origin's about. It's less to do with stats and more about the heart you show, Buzz.
No, it is, and no one's got a bigger heart in rugby league than Jake. No one's got a better tackle technique. But the bottom line is things have changed. We have the Australian captain in our side. We also have Nathan Cleary, who's captained or co-captained 4 straight titles, who's available this year. And, mate, it's going to be really, really difficult for Laurie to make that decision. But if I was picking the New South Wales side now, and I'll give him 2 more weeks, he wouldn't be in my team.
Very harsh.
What about you?
No, I'm.
Don't
as I
sit
said,
on the
I am
fence,
sitting on the fence.
Andrew.
All right, I'll tell you how. I go with my heart. I'll say keep him.
Where?
Keep him for the first game. Yeah, I think so. Up there at Suncorp. I know he hasn't played much football this year and didn't play many minutes during last year's series, but he was the captain of the New South Wales side.
So you'd keep him as captain?
I would. Yeah, I would. I think so.
Would you?
Yeah, I think it's. I think
You got the two Penrith captains, Webby.
I'm more
trying
than
to
aware.
help you here.
I'm more than aware. Thank you for pointing out that they're captains of Penrith. I hadn't noticed, but I just think, this is what Queensland say about New South Wales all the time. Do you think Queensland would drop a series winning captain?
I don't know.
I would show loyalty for one game. But that's just the type of decent, down-to-earth person I am. Yeah. Okay, let's get into our third item. Graham Arnold is
I'm
the
not
new
very happy with Arnie. You tell the story first.
So Iraqi media, of which I know you're a big fan. You read the Iraqi.
Do you have a subscription?
Yeah, to the
Iraqi Times,
to the Beirut Bugle.
Yeah, right.
They reported that Graham Arnold is going to be their coach from about June onwards through to the end of the Asian Cup next year.
Right.
It's got an early get-out clause if they don't reach the World Cup. What do you think about
Well, he can
Arnie
coach.
He can coach.
How far did he get us at the World Cup last year?
I think was it the round of 16?
Yeah.
It was 22.
We punched above our weight there, and he did a great job.
That was Australia's best result.
And it's without the Timmy Cales and it's without the Harry Kills and all those great players from the past. It was outside of Matty Ryan. They aren't big names.
No. Not
like the Matildas, who many of them are now household names. Funny story, could have been a war story, but I'll tell it now. During COVID, we're all in lockdown, but Arnie
breached it
and went down to Manly and was walking with and someone took a photo of him and sent it to me. So I rang him and I said, mate, what are you fucking doing? We're all supposed to be like, oh, mate, give me a break, mental health. I had to get out. I said, mate, we're all suffering. He said, mate, do it. So I said, look, I'll do the right thing, mate. I'll do the right thing. And he was really shitty. So anyway, I hung up and I just thought about it. What should I do? And then bloody Hadley breaks the guy who texted to me. He's texted to Hadley. So he scooped me on 2GB.
There you go.
But I only had the shits so I was doing my job, Webby.
Do you know who he's mainly had the shits with out of it? I know Arnie quite well. Was Football Australia, because they just made a real example of him. That's what he didn't like.
Yeah. They made a bigger example out of him than they did Sam Kerr.
I know. Now you're getting a bit closer to the truth there. What do we think about him looking after Iraq? You need a job. It's the world game, even though you attacked the EPL last week.
I didn't attack the EPL at all. I just reckon they're outdated with their no finals, and yeah,
it's very it's
the soccer types.
It's struggling. The struggling EPL.
Yeah, but you don't get me, Webby. Get modern, mate.
Hang on. From the bloke who doesn't even have it, we use the apps on his TV.
Yeah, but mate, if you had your way, we'd still be playing 4-tackle rugby league and putting the ball in the middle of the freaking scrums. We would be, mate.
Hang on. Bullshit. The EPL is probably up there with the NFL. It's the best domestic sporting league in the world.
And you know what? Why is the NFL so good?
Well, it's not just because they're different cultures. Different cultures, different cultures.
Even cricket has a World Championship final on Amazon.
You're wearing European football. They do have various knockouts.
Yeah, I know that. The FA Cup.
Yes. What else?
The
Champions
UEFA,
League.
The Champions League.
You round ball specialist.
It's too hard to find it, to watch it.
You know
How
what?
many different cable services?
I will give you this. We're just back to where we were. That's like, if I look at my credit cards home and go, how am I subscribed to all these apps, all these news sites?
Well, you need to.
You need to. I know.
The one good value one is Code.
That's it. Code $49 for off the record.
Best rugby league statistics. Watch the buzz. Tell you what's happening. Watch the buzz. What? Sorry, I'm just getting a bit loose.
Is that your song?
Yeah.
Do you have a theme song?
Haven't you heard that?
No.
Jesus Christ Superstar. What's the buzz? I'm going to speak to Sam, see if we can get a little jingle going.
You know what I was thinking for a bit of a competition? We should have punters ring in and do buzz impressions.
Oh, really?
Don't you reckon?
Yeah, that'd be great.
We need to do that.
Back
You
to,
know why?
yeah,
Because
someone-
Matty Johns, I had people, Ian Heads' son, Phil, who now works at Venues New South Wales, a good friend and colleague of ours, he listened to the podcast and said, that is the best Buzz impersonation I've ever heard.
What you did you?
That Matty Johns did. Of
Oh,
you.
right.
You know who does a good one? Weidler. Weidler does a.
Oh, does he?
Weidler does a
Oh, that's
very
great.
very good one. Righto.
Yeah, right, okay.
You right?
Yeah. What's that line? Impersonation is flattering?
Impersonation. What is it?
Hey?
I don't know.
There's this line like
What's
that.
Well, I don't.
Well, mate, I find it quite flattering.
Hang on. Let's
that
Google this
people
as
are-
we're on air. I know this
Back
is
to
great.
that, mate, I've had a couple of phone calls totally off topic from people attending your birthday party, and they say to me, what'll I buy Webby?
I don't want
What'll buy
anything.
Webby?
I don't want anything.
You know what I say?
What?
Red wine. Just buy a nice bottle of red.
Let me give you a little.
And I said, he doesn't drink cheap shit. Get him a decent bottle.
I tell you what.
Get him a decent bottle.
If you're going to my 50th on Saturday, I'll tell you what I want. Just the cash. Just give me the cash. That'll do. That'll do. All right. It's war stories time, and it's my turn for a war
go
story.
for it. I'm going to go and have a
Nicorette. And Nicorette, if anyone from Nicorette's out there, if you want to, feel free to sponsor us at any stage.
Hit us up with it. Come on. Off you go.
Okay, so my war story is because I turned 50 on Sunday of this week, Mother's Day. I was born on Mother's Day.
Were you?
And yeah, Coffs Harbour Hospital. And I was on the front page of the Coffs Harbour Advocate the next day.
Well, you're fair. You still got it?
It's somewhere.
We've got to find that, Webby.
I know. No,
Were you chubby then? Were you a chubby baby?
I wasn't
What
actually.
did you weigh? I'd love to know.
I was a little baby.
Okay, off you
I was a gorgeous young
Don't want
baby.
to ruin your segment.
Yeah, but I've struggled to get a front page ever since.
Yeah, right.
Front page day one. But on my 25th birthday, I lost my job at the Sydney Express. So I was a young journo in the late 90s in Albury-Wodonga at a paper called the Border Mail. I'd previously worked for years at the Maitland Merc. I'd been a stringer for the Sun Herald. I did my internship at the Sun Herald. I couldn't get a job at News Corp. They didn't pick me up with their cadet program.
You did apply at News?
I came down to Sydney from Urunga, where I grew up, to
Did you?
sit the test. I had
Geez, that
no
was
idea.
a
I
blunder.
would have been 16, I
Were
reckon.
you?
16, 17.
Yeah.
Anyway, I worked in Albury-Wodonga in the late 90s, and I got a call from a guy called Rick Allen, who used to work for the Sun Herald, the great Snick.
Yeah.
And he said, mate, we're starting up a commuter afternoon paper called the Sydney Express to go up against News's
MX.
version, which was MX.
Yeah.
So he said, but we need you up here pronto. And it was hard for me to say no to it was hard for me to leave because I had accreditation to the Sydney Olympics.
Yeah, right.
And I'd always wanted to cover an Olympics. But the thing that drove me ever since I was a young kid was to work in Sydney. I used to love the Sydney papers, Buzz. I'd buy them from the age of 10, 11 and read them all, and always wanted to come and work in Sydney. And that's what I wanted to do.
So it was a blessing to be
I
sacked
took it.
on your 25th.
Well, I took it. I took the job. I took the job, and I resigned from the Border Mail. And we were doing dummy runs because it was an afternoon paper. You'd have to start at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I was staying with my parents who were living on the northern beaches at the time. Come all the way in, and on the morning of my 25th birthday, I've come in and there's just beer bottles all over this office, and it was. I was like, geez, they've ripped in here. Thanks for the invite. And I couldn't get it through the front door to the office. I could just see through the windows that they'd had a good time. And then I sat there and picked up the Herald, and I turned the page, and page 3, Fairfax Board Grounds Sydney Express project.
Yeah, shit.
So I lost my job on my 25th birthday.
Yeah, wow.
That was fun. And I'll never forget.
I'd hate to think what you did that afternoon.
Well,
you would have gone and had some frothies.
I tell you what happened. Rick Allen said, Rick Allen come in and said, he said, how are you? And I said, Oh, I'm not great. It's my 25th birthday. I've just walked away from Olympics accreditation to come and work for you, and now there's no job. He said, come on, we'll go over the Piedmont Bridge Hotel. So he went over the Piedmont Bridge Hotel at 9 in the morning and had 5 schooners, and then came back, and Alan Revell, who was the MD, he addressed the staff and pretended to cry, walked out, and I followed him to the lifts. I said, fuck this, and I followed him to the lifts. And as the door was closing, I put my foot in the lift door and I said, I've just walked away from a full-time job to work for you. I want one back. I want a job. And they didn't give me a job. They gave me 2 weeks' pay.
Wow.
I had no job at all.
So where'd you go then?
I couldn't. I got interviewed for a job at the Newcastle Herald.
Yeah, right.
Which they were going to give to me, but I got another offer from Inside Sport magazine.
Oh, of course, yeah. Yeah.
So I went and worked for Inside Sport for 3-4 years, which was a dream come true. I'd always loved that magazine.
Everything happens for a reason, Webby.
It does, but that's where I learned how to write under 2 guys called Greg Hunter and Graham Sims. They were massive influences on me.
Do you learn to write? Do you learn, or do you just you seem born with it? Seriously.
No. Oh, it's a hard work, Buzz.
Yeah.
It is.
Even that Matty John spiel you did last week, that opening was beautiful words.
Getting paid to bullshit.
Yeah.
No, you do.
You're born with a skill though, Webby, in this game to write.
You reckon?
Yeah.
You got to work hard, Buzz.
Mate.
But you know how I could become a better writer just by doing it. It used to torture me, and it still does to some extent. But I remember during those Inside Sport years, it would torture me trying to put together a 3,000
Have you ever
word story.
thought, what's the best piece you've ever written? I'm not talking news story. The Gus Gould one recently was brilliant. Brilliant. What's the best, do you hang one on the wall or do you?
The one we'll probably use this as a war story. When I came out, the front page of the paper, that was pretty big in 2014.
That was crazy, Webby, yeah, wow.
But the Gus piece was very satisfying.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I don't know. What piece have I enjoyed the most? That Gus one would have to be up there.
Yeah. Incredible insight.
The great Phil Gould.
Someone asked me on social media, we had a chance of getting Gus on. And I said, yeah, 1 billion to 1. Yeah.
Maybe we should text him. We should cold call him.
Yeah.
I'm sure
I saw him up in Brisbane.
How was he?
Oh, I was just driving in underneath the stadium and Middo pulls up in a RAV or some high car who's in. And I say, hey, Middo, how you going? I'm about to go over and chat. And then Gus pops out the back. So Middo had driven the great man to the footy. So I decided I'll just head it.
Just brush him.
Oh, yeah, I didn't want an uncomfortable scenario.
As I wrote in that piece, I don't know why, we fell out. He just started not talking to me.
Yeah.
I have that effect on people.
Yeah, no, he's doing a good job though, Webbo.
You can't deny that.
Yeah.
He's killed it at Canterbury.
Big game for the Dogs of War though on Sunday, whenever. And it reminds
against
me,
Canberra.
At your party, I want to have a TV because St George are playing. Who are they playing? They got a big game. They got the Broncos in Wollongong.
That's right.
5:30.
The Warriors.
Do they? Warriors. Sorry, Sammy.
We nailed it.
Sorry. Can I please? They got the Broncos the following week. That's right.
Okay,
yeah,
so
can
I'll get a TV.
You got security?
No.
Mate, you can fight.
My cousins can.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for Phyllis Forecasts. Buzz, what do you have for me?
I have a really big rugby league pitch to be part of the 2032 Brisbane Olympic Games.
Is that right?
I have seen a copy of a letter that Peter V'landys has written to the organising committee on behalf of Australian touch football. Just for rugby league, they're in a partnership now with touch footy. They all come under the same banner. It's a great opportunity, I think, to showcase the game, global stage. Rugby league participation is going all-time strong. In this letter, they said that with significant further growth that they've targeted, it'll go up another 17% by 2032. In Queensland and across Australia, there are tens and tens and tens of thousands of touch football players, and in New Zealand and in Tonga and the Pacific nations, and in the UK and in South Africa, and I'm sure other states would look at at the Americans. And there's a competition in America, actually. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think it's good. I'd love to see it happen.
I think it's ambitious.
Yeah.
Is that what you got?
Why is it ambitious?
I think it's ambitious to try and make it an Olympic sport.
I don't think they want a permanent Olympic sport, Webby, but don't often home nations
something
like
flag football's going to be in LA.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. I think it'd be terrific, and I think it deserves to be there.
Very good. Okay, I've got just a old stock standard multi-bet. Canberra v Bulldogs, as you said, this weekend. That wasn't on my bingo card, Buzz, at the start of the year. The Canberra Bulldogs would be the top two heading into a match in the middle of May.
Isn't that great?
Very good. Good for rugby league. So
it is really, really good.
I've got Canberra to win, into Xavier Savage to score, Hudson Young to score, and Matty Nicholson, who's looking like the buy of the year, really, to score. That's paying $23.54.
Is it really?
Taking candy from a baby.
That Matt Nicholson you spoke about runs the most terrific lines, and he can find the try line.
He can.
He comes off his halves. Beautiful lines, and he's also got an incredibly good offload. And this guy is going to get better and better. He didn't go to Las Vegas because the Raiders weren't sure he was ready. But Webby, you're on a winner with that young footballer.
Very good.
You're on a winner, sir.
Which hopefully I'll be collecting on Sunday. That's it, Buzz. Thanks for your time.
Gamble responsibly,
always
Andrew,
gamble responsibly.
Because you've got a big bar bill on Saturday.
I know.
Big bar bill.
It's going to cost me a fortune.
Mate, you got plenty. How many gigs you got?
I spend plenty. That's the problem.
How much?
How many gigs have you got?
Well,
you've got
NRL 360. You're on SEN. You write for the Australian newspaper. You do books. One a year.
I'm writing a column for Big League once a week.
Are you really?
Yes.
Tell me you're not.
Yes. Thanks for reading it.
Mate, how does your accountant manage it?
I don't know.
Hey?
Everything's a tax write-off. Okay, listen.
Your GST's more than I do.
Listen, it's my birthday week. Can you just go easy on me?
Righto.
Thanks, everyone, for listening. You can follow, subscribe, and engage with us on socials. You can find us at Off The Record Podcast on Instagram, or please subscribe to us on YouTube at Off The Record Podcast. Thanks, Buzz.
On your Webby. Happy birthday. See you Saturday.
Thank you, mate. Bye, guys.